Okay. I don't know whether I'll be able to speak for an hour and a half. It's too much. Thank God it's already about 20 minutes of fun. But now it's fun. And when I feel that I have come to the end of what I have in mind, before we have dinner, because I don't want to change your program too much, perhaps any of you would like to make any comments. I don't mean questions, but comments. You should feel free to make the comments. Either just tell me how wrong I am in my presentation. You are free to say that, believe me. Or in elaboration of what I may have said. Whatever your heart prompts you to say, please feel free to say it, provided there will be time. It depends on how things will develop. I would like to start by saying how grateful I am to the National Spiritual Assembly for making it possible for me to come to Japan. That's been always one of my longings to come to Japan. I've said this quite often in my meetings, my love for the sun and my reading of the letters of Shoghi Effendi and the tablets of Abdul Baha and the statements they have made about Japan created a special feeling of warmth in my heart. One of my first questions from, I can't remember which of the pioneers it was to ask if the book by Barbara Sims, Japan Will Turn Ablaze, which is the remarkable compilation that she has made, has been translated into the Japanese. And I was told, yes, it has been translated into Japanese. So I sat down and I said to myself, okay, let me glean from this book such statements that will show what a great privilege it is for the pioneers who are serving here to realize, to know what a privilege, a priceless privilege it is for them to be serving here in Japan. And the promises and prophecies, indeed, that we read about Japan and the future of Japan and the destiny of Japan, such prophecies and promises I have rarely seen in our Baha'i writings. There seems to be something very special about this country that drew from the pen of Abdul Baha and the pen of Shoghi Effendi and statements made by them to so boldly and so confidently announce to everybody, anybody who is interested to read the book, to read their statements about this country. I think it's a privilege for those of you who are sitting here to be here and to serve the Japanese people and to be instruments in the hands of Baha'u'llah to achieve his purpose in this world, as far as this country is concerned. Now, I thought after this brief introduction, I will share with you an experience I had with the beloved Guardian in 1957. And I was on the National Assembly of Central and East Africa. And so there were Turkish pioneers at that time. It was only 9 days. And the first few days, Shoghi Effendi spoke to these Turkish pioneers about Turkey and the problems in Turkey with the government, the pioneers, what they should do, everything about Turkey, the duties of the party. Very little about Africa. I didn't say anything. I was waiting for Shoghi Effendi to maybe change the subject. Very soon I found out that they were leaving. So that left the rest of the pilgrimage time alone. I was alone with the God. What a privilege this was. I wasn't expecting it at all. So we began talking about Africa. On the very first day when I was alone in his presence. He told me how many members, how many Africans are on the National Spiritual Center. He knew very well. The NSA had sent him full report, everything. But he wanted to introduce the subject, I think. I told him 3 African members, and the rest are pioneers, 6 pioneers. After a pause, he said, this is not good. If pioneers are to be elected, they should be in the minority, not the majority. So that was a slap in my face, because I was one of the 6. Then he said, do the African members participate in consultation? The truth was, they didn't very much. And we, the pioneers, were always the first to speak, and very loud, and I disagree with you, or whatever. Well, this is nonsense what you're saying. And we, the pioneers, monopolized the consultation. And the poor African people listening, wondering what was going on, you know. On one occasion, 2 of the members of the pioneers got up, they were so angry. They left the room. You can imagine what atmosphere there was on the National Assembly. How could I say all these things? I was ashamed to say this. So I thought that there was a pause, there was a silence, but I had to answer. So I said, the beloved guardian knows very well how enthusiastic the pioneers are. That's how I said. And I said, they are always participating. Which meant that the Africans did not participate, or participate very late or very little. Again, he said, this is not good. He didn't want to shame me in front of the Turkish. Then he started to slap me. He said, this is not good. He said that when there is an item, this is a very important point. When there is an item on the agenda for consultation, chairman should always start by calling on the African members to speak first, to give their opinion first, and then permit the members to speak, the pioneers to speak. Believe me, I had never thought of this possibility. But it was quite a lesson to listen to him and to say that. Of course, he didn't speak, he wasn't angry. He spoke with great sympathy, with great love, but he was certainly very firm in what he was saying. Then he had just sent a copy of the design of the temple in Kampala to the National Assembly. He wanted to know if we had received it. I said, yes, we have received it. He did not say, did the National Assembly like the design? He said, did the 3 African members of the National Assembly like the design? That was yet another slap. I said, yes, certainly he did. He didn't say what the National Assembly thought, but the African members, how did they feel? All these things happened. When I went back to Kampala, of course, I was very frank with the members of the National Assembly, and I repeated all these things to them. The pioneers were shocked. The African members were embarrassed a little, but they listened, and they understood what Shoghi Effendi was saying. He wanted, now of course, I think this is the principle that he was enunciating. Oh, I forgot to say one thing. I have to go back to the consultation question. When he said that they should speak first, he said, yes, the pioneers are the minority in the country. He said, yes. But in this case, I'm saying that the Africans, who are the majority, should speak first. Because we should always give priority to the minorities. And the minorities, of course, the pioneers in the country are a minority. But in this case, I'm saying the Africans should be first. The local people should be first. So that ends my report of my pilgrimage on this subject. And I came back and I reported all this to the National Assembly. And of course we discussed it. And I asked the National Assembly whether, in their opinion, I should say what I heard from Shoghi Effendi at the next convention. There was a lot of consultation. Of course, the African members were asked to speak first. And the result of the consultation was it would be unwise for me to say this. He was giving us, Shoghi Effendi was not asking me to say this at convention, he was enunciating or explaining a principle. And wisdom dictated, according to the majority view of the National Assembly, that it would not be wise for me to say that. So I did not say that. But I have always said this to the friends, to the pioneers, whatever I traveled with in Africa. I have mentioned this to the national assemblies, to local assemblies, wherever I have met with them, I have mentioned this very openly, but not at the convention. That was the decision of the NSA, of course, I respect it. Now, the reason why I say this is that obviously the National Assembly was right in saying that I should not mention it, because this would have interfered in the principle of Baha'i elections. It would influence the delegates. This is unwise. The friends should be free, the delegates should be free in electing. But that there should be an awareness on the part of the pioneers as to how they should behave, and why they are there. To other pioneers who had also gone from Africa, among them, two hands of the, who later became hands of the cause of God, William Sears and John Robards. He had said similar things. I read Pilgrim Notes, and I remember reading in Mr. Sears' Pilgrim Notes this statement, that the pioneers should remember that they are there to serve the local people, not to dominate them. We use the word dominate, not to dominate them. Now, that's the end of my recollections about pilgrim routes, about things that happened in the past. In 1951, that's 4 years after the passing of Shirley Effendi, Violette and I were invited to go to Africa because it was in 1951 that a number of new NSAs and new countries had been opened to the faith during the 2-year Africa campaign of Shirley Effendi, which preceded the 10-year crusade. So there were a number of countries that had been opened at that time, and the NSAs invited us. We were at that time in Haifa. And of course we went there. I was so impressed, and so was Violette, that the situation had automatically changed without any forcing, without anybody saying anything, I'm sure. And we saw that the majority of National Assembly members, wherever we went, were Africans. The chairman was African. The treasurer was African. The secretary was African. Otherwise, you find out. This is how it should be. This was healthy. I was very glad to see that in Japan this is also the case. And I was even more happy to see at the convention that there were more women delegates than men delegates. And I was told by many of my friends here that I should not be surprised, because the women are the strong element in Japanese society. And so that's how it is. So I just want to say that I am not implying anything of any, I'm not implying any criticism of the proceedings at the National Convention here, which I attended personally, and I was very impressed with the orderliness, the spirituality, and the efficiency of the way that the convention was conducted. I was truly very, very impressed, I must tell you this. And my respect for the Baha'i administrative institutions here, believe me, was highly enhanced after my attendance at this convention. Now, how this affects your work here in Japan, I don't know. What I do feel very strongly is that, and I said this at the convention, I said that the prophecy is that Japan will turn ablaze. And I said that I didn't think that this will happen through visitors, friends from abroad, coming to visit Japan, whether as individuals or even as members of institutions. I don't think this will happen that way. And they went on to say that I did not think that the pioneers will be able, on their own, to turn Japan ablaze. And I finally said that I'm of the strong opinion that when the Japanese friends will arise themselves and take full responsibility for all the affairs of the faith, in the teaching work, in the administrative work, everything, they are the ones who will make and turn Japan ablaze. I think that is the challenge. I think the challenge of every one of the pioneers here is this very point, that we have to see how we can inspire the Japanese friends to stand independently, confidently, with determination, with dedication, with self-sacrifice, in order to promote and protect the interests of the faith in this country. I say sacrifice because I believe that that's the way that the Japanese friends will be blessed. Not being only artificially pushed by outsiders. No. They should reach a point when they are themselves, they find it natural to sacrifice for Baha'u'llah. That sacrifice will attract divine blessings on them and on their country. I think that is your key. To see, when will this happen? I tell you now, Africa was what it was when I was there and what it is today. It's a different Africa. If you want to say, Africa has turned ablaze, it has turned ablaze. Shoghi Effendi was so pleased with Africa and what was going on in Africa that the hands of the cause of God, at the suggestion of Rabbi Hanum, decided to put the eagle on which the globe over the column is placed, facing Africa. Because it was Africa that brought joy to the heart of Shoghi Effendi during his last years. Of course, many other countries have won the palm of victory after Africa, but I'm talking about just the period of the guardianship and how pleased Shoghi Effendi was. Of course, in the teaching work, not only in Japan, but in every single country of the world, we had a period of people coming to the course in large groups. So excited were we, and were the hands of the cause during the 10-year crusade, that we called this coming in of large groups as mass conversion of the masses. When you read the writings of Shoghi Effendi, this is not so. Shoghi Effendi spoke about 3 phases of the teaching work. Individual conversion, and we are still in the stage of individual conversion. After 168 years that have passed during the dispensation of Baha'u'llah, we are still stage 1. But in between we have had multitudes come in and more than half of the multitudes leaving. But some remained. Some of them remained and one of them became the hand of the cause of God, Eno Moringa. Some of them became councillors. Certainly many of them became members of national assemblies. So all of them did not leave, you see. But quite a number left. This happened all over the world. It happened in Japan as well. But this was not mass conversion. We shouldn't have called it mass conversion. In our excitement, we called it mass conversion. The second stage is entry by troops. Now, entry by troops is different from mass conversion. It's troops coming in. Individual, 4 or 5 at a time, maximum. Troops, we're talking about 100, 200 at a time. This was not happening. That's the second stage. Entry by troops. And what does the House of Justice say? Helping us, guiding us, encouraging us to speed up the process of entry by troops. It hasn't happened yet. They want this to happen. When Where, for the first time in Baha'i history, nobody knows. Ideas float everywhere. It will be, I think, such and such a country. This is nothing but speculation. We don't know. We don't know what the plan of God is. But certainly there will be one first country which will have this experience of entry by troops, and then the others will follow one at a time, pending the time when the third stage will be ahead of us, which is instead of 100, 150 going into the cause in a short period, we are talking about thousands coming. The masses are coming. That does not happen. That's in the distant future. We are just struggling to enter the second stage. But in our enthusiasm, as I said, we have called it mass conversion during the 10-year crusade, and there was a lot of disenchantment, if I may call it, in the Baha'i world, that they came in and they left, or most of them, if you like to say, left. This happened in Japan as well. And the institutions became afraid. Not only in Japan, everywhere. Became, we're not going to have a repetition now. This is why the House of Justice changed the direction of the teaching work for us. They told us now we have core activities. We did not have core activities before. What did we have? We had 19-day feast. A new believer comes in, everybody says hooray, everybody hugs him or her. And when is our next meeting? Oh, our next meeting, let's see, it's 19-day feast, is on Tuesday, such and such day. The poor guy is working, he cannot come. But that was all we had. The core activities were our only 19 days. We had some few firesides here and there, but that was all. It was not done in an organized way. The 19-day feast were attended, but very, very low percentage. The House of Justice felt this was not right. So they devised this idea of core activities. Now we have 4 core activities. We have study circles, we have devotional meetings, we have junior youth activities, we have children's activities, all aimed at promoting unity, promoting activity, stimulating, inspiring the friends, so that when someone becomes a Baha'i, at least there is something going on somewhere that he can be pushed into these channels and try to develop further. Now, if at this stage, when we have book 1 and book 2 for this activity, as well as a number of books for children, now if we start to lose new believers, it's a shame. Because we have the setup, we have the mechanism. Now, if we lose that, that's a shame. Not like before when we didn't have it. That was a good excuse. Now there is no excuse. They come in, they have to stay. Most of them should stay. I don't say every one of them should stay, because that's human nature. But most of them should stay. That should be our goal. And we should give an example through our lives. I think pioneers should be active in the teaching work. Dear friends, if each one of you is really, really active in the teaching work, you will see that God will bless your homes. Allah will solve your difficulties. He will transform your lives. And you have to work participate in the teaching work. Now, the teaching work has two phases. Now, we should clearly distinguish between the two phases. The first phase is to find, so to speak, receptive souls. Receptive souls who are ready to enter this book 1 and book 2 and book 5. Second stage is to channel them through these books and these channels. There are two different things. We, as pioneers, we should participate in both activities and be an example to the local believers. We should engage in finding receptive souls like their beloved friends. That should be our primary job. In all our activities, we have to beg Baha'u'llah to help us to find receptive souls during the second 7-year plan, when Shoghi Effendi started the European campaign. She was in Spain. She tried, nothing. She wrote Shoghi Effendi. She said, Shoghi Effendi, there is no receptivity here. I've come here, I mix with people, I say Baha'i, they say what? I say Baha'i, that's all. I explain what it is, no one is interested. What shall I do? If I'm wasting my time, I should go back to the States. Answer. We have this Shoghi Effendi's letter. He says, we should persevere. We should persevere. Then, he adds, you should pray. You should pray every day that Baha'u'llah will send you receptive souls. Every day. You should sincerely pray. Every day. God will send you. He did not say that you will find the receptive souls. It is as if he had more confidence in the receptive souls. Allah will send you, S-E-N-D, receptive souls. She remained there. The local spiritual assembly of Madrid was formed, victory after victory. Although the situation, the economic situation in Spain is on the downturn. It's not good. But believe me, Spain now is one of the strong pillars of the faith in Europe. The Catholic, all of them are Catholic. Still, receptive souls were found. Another point he made in that letter is, in every city there are receptive souls. With strong confidence, as if he was saying this in capital letters. In every city there are confident souls. I want to make a prophecy and say, I believe that as I'm talking to you, what is the name of your city here?
Ashiya.
Ashiya. I want to make a prophecy. As I'm talking to you, there are in Ashiya many receptive souls. As I'm talking to you, probably in their homes they are saying, what kind of religion do we have? Why is God dealing with? Why are our youth committing suicide? Whatever it is. They're wondering, they're searching. We have to find them. We will find them. God will send them. We should persevere. We should be an example. If we don't do this, dear friends, the Japanese local people will not do it. When they see us doing it, they will do it. As soon as we do it, and we produce the receptive souls, we put them into these chairs. Then they will start doing the same thing. We should be an example for them in the teaching work. That is the teaching work. The teaching work is a magnet that will attract divine confirmations. Administrative work is good, but not like the teaching. Teaching is a magnet, attracts the magnets. We should beg Baha'u'llah every day, every single day, every time we have an obligatory prayer or whatever you want to call it. Oh God, then mix. We should mix with the people. You look up your ocean, look for the word mix. See how many times Shobi Effendi I used the word mix. Mix with people. And we should have the courage and the wisdom and the love to mention the name of Baha'u'llah somehow. We have to find ways of doing that. And God will guide us. God will teach us. We think we can't do it. We will do it. We have to do it. We have to be an example to the Japanese local friends. And then, as soon as such a person is found, to channel him through these activities. And they will see it. They will do it. They will do it on their own. They need an example. They want deeds, not words. I think that is the way to help Japan turning a place. I think it's in the hands of the pioneers in this way, so that they will become an instrument to stimulate the Japanese believers to arise. And they will do it. They love the cause, but they love the pioneers. They respect the pioneers. They are grateful for the pioneers. Thank God they are here. We don't want them to ever leave. Of course, they love the cause and they see the pioneers serving the cause that they love. Of course they want you to be here. They say they do it even better than ourselves. We can't do it that way. Let them do it. Fine. It's excellent. They're happy. But that happiness is immaturity. It's not maturity. Maturity is we have to do it ourselves and we have to follow their example. That's maturity. Immaturity is, well, thank God they are doing it and they do it so much better. That's okay. That's wrong. That's immaturity. Immaturity will not turn Japan a place. A final point, and that's it. Maybe some of you will not like what I'm going to say. I beg your forgiveness for what I'm going to say. My dear friends, I have been a pioneer. And I know that the pioneers admire the cause. They are ready to sacrifice themselves for the cause. Believe me, wherever they are. But the pioneers, we as pioneers should learn to look at the good points that our fellow pioneers have, not at the weak points. We should look at the strong points. Every one of us here has strong points and weak points. Excuse me to tell you, if you tell me that, Ali, listen, I understand what you say, but believe me, really, I don't have any weak points. You are seriously mistaken. Shobi Effendi says one person had no weak points. That was Abdul Baha. Finished. Shobi Effendi, the Son of God on earth, cries out in his letters, I am not that second Abdul Baha. I am not Abdul Baha young again. I am not an exemplar of the faith. I think that I'm an exemplar. I have no weak points. I'm perfect. Ho ho! It's my ego speaking. Of course I have weak points. Weak points that everybody sees, everybody knows. I don't see it, they see it. I'm so blind, that ego is so strong, it makes me blind. I don't see it. I see my strong points. I have this, that, done this, done that. Who else did it? Or I did. It's the ego. Forgive me to raise my voice. God knows I love you all. God knows I feel I am lowly before you. God is my witness, but I'm telling you the truth. I bow my head before all of you. But we should not look at our strong points. We should do the exact opposite. When we look at others, we should look at their strong points, not at their weak points. When we look at ourselves, we should look at our weak points. We do the exact opposite. When we look at ourselves, we forgive our weak points easily, and we justify them. That's the ego. Now we think of our strong points. When we look at others, we don't look at their strong points usually. We look at their weak points. We're even suspicious of each other at times. Suspicious of the intentions that we have, or some of us have. He's doing this because he wants to become this or become that. We come to this conclusion. This is wrong. The result is lack of affection, lack of true love among the pioneers themselves. We should be brothers and sisters, one family. They ask me wherever I go, believe me, many friends have asked the same question. Tell us about the consultations of the House of Justice. How do the members of the House of Justice consult? I tell them, believe me, what they do is the same thing that all national assemblies do, all local assemblies do, all committee members do. Why consultation? It's in the writings, that's all. But there is one thing I have noticed, about for 40 years I was undeservedly a member of this institution. I always wondered, how is it that these members, as soon as they are members of the National Universal House, whether they are new members or old members, it doesn't matter. Fingers of one hand, as Baha'u'llah says. Members of the limbs of the same body. If there is a pain somewhere, it's a pain for the whole body. If there is joy in the body, or it's the joy for all. The joy of one is the joy of all. The sorrow of one is the sorrow of all. 9 brothers. This I noticed, and it gave me such joy. Now, of course, I did not speak about it to the members themselves, about it, but deep in my heart I said to myself, maybe that is a blessing of Baha'u'llah, so that this unity will attract that inspiration that Baha'u'llah has promised. It becomes a natural thing. Maybe it's something else, of course, because Baha'u'llah has promised it, whatever He's going to guide infallibly this vote. Whether it's unanimous vote or majority vote, so there is the possibility of disagreement. When you use majority vote, there is the possibility of not agreeing. But believe me, that love is so tender, that in the consultations, it is as if the members feel that what one of us is saying, what I am saying, is just nonsense. I realize that it's a good, strong majority here saying something else which should be right. I'm the only one who was pushing. Maybe I speak twice about it, but no response from anybody. I shut up. And when the chairman for the week, we don't have the House of Justice does not have permanent officers, as you know. The chairman of the week says, well, it looks as if we are all agreeing to do this. Is that so? Everybody says. There's no vote. There's a spirit of brotherhood. I long for the day when all local assemblies, all national assemblies will become like that. That is the secret, I think. Consultation should be like that. The consultation we should forget ourselves. Forget our personal interests, personal views, whatever see what is good for the cause. When we forget ourselves and think of him and his cause, divine confirmations come. We have to forget ourselves. I'm sure you have come to the conclusion. I have finished my talk. I'm sure you have come to the conclusion that there are many fools in this world. And this Ali is one of them. And now he has come to Japan. I think you are right. And I must ask for your forgiveness once again for raising my voice. It is because I love each one of you. I am a fool, yes, but I love you all. And you are loved by Baha'u'llah. Because you love Baha'u'llah. And he says, love me that I may love thee. It's a principle. Ask yourself, do I love Baha'u'llah? Yeah, I do love him. Therefore he must love me. Be confident. Of course he loves you. He loves you and is waiting for you to arise selflessly. With pure dedication, with pure motivation to serve his precious cause. Of what I have seen in Japan. I have a duty, I have a responsibility not to leave this country before submitting my proofs to the National Spiritual Assembly on this very subject. But I'll tell you how I feel about the Japanese believers. Believe me, every single Japanese believer I have met, I have fallen in love with. I really mean it. Every single Baha'i Japanese Baha'i, I've fallen in love with. It may be because of my prejudice, it may be because I have read all these texts about Japan and all this, I don't know. Wow. I open my mouth as they speak. You know, at the convention, I went to the seventh heaven as I saw these delegates standing up, especially the women delegates. Boy, that moved me, that touched me. I wanted to cry to see these women delegates standing up. It is true they start to saying, I know, and so on, and they go on saying, I know, but God knows they speak from their heart. It touches anybody. The more we have of these Japanese, that's what we want. Visitors can't do that. Pioneers can't do that. You cannot turn the whole country ablaze, but you can turn the Baha'is ablaze. so that they will turn the country over. That's what we should do. Believe me, anybody seeing the Japanese Baha'is will fall in love with them. Sweet, humble, truly concerned about the interests of the faith. These people that I met, I always long to see more of them. When I see you pioneers, I feel the same way. I see that you have such a love of the cause of the power, that you are exemplary pioneers throughout the Baha'i world. Believe me. And this is no exaggeration. When I see the Japanese Baha'is themselves, I want to dance, I want to sing, I want to fly. The Universal House of Justice, in one of the recent Rizwan messages, states that it should not be a major concern for us to bring people into the faith, but rather to get them into the core activities and the process of transformation. Could you please elaborate on this? I have always thought or sought to bring friends into the faith. Is this wrong? I think we are misreading the letter of the House of Justice. I think from what I recall, what the House of Justice is saying is slightly different. What they are saying, as I understood it, was that the major concern should be that when someone is ready to accept the faith, to put him through these core activities. You see, of course, we should be concerned about mixing with people, finding thirsty people. This is what they are saying. They are not saying that we should not be concerned about teaching people and bringing them into the faith. Please read that Rizwan message once again. Many of the friends thought that the lesser peace would come by the year 2000. The Universal House of Justice in that year corrected this misconception. Could you please comment on when it might be achieved and for what conditions are necessary for it? Second part of the question, maybe I can try to answer, but the first part, when it might be achieved, I think the questioner thinks that I am a prophet. I assure you, I'm not a prophet. Once the greatest holy leaf asked me, he told me, what do you want to do when you grow up? Of course, he was talking in Persian. I was 5 years old. I wanted to say I want to be a teacher of the faith. There is a special word in Persian which says that. For those of you who speak Persian, it's muballigh. All right. This word muballigh has M in it, and has B in it, and it has yes, Ghe is in it. So there is another word in Persian which has these 3 consonants. It's a completely different word, but it has these consonants are in both words. Came out. She was holding my hand. Oh, you know what I had said? I said, I want to become a prophet. For those of you who speak Persian, instead of saying muballigh, I said, I want to become Payghambar. She called my mother to the other room. She said, Fatma Haram, come. Your son is ready to declare his mission. Despite all this, I am not the prophet. and I don't know what this thing is going to happen. Nobody knows. But second part of the question is, of course, very important. What conditions are necessary for it? That is very clear in the writing. Yeah. And now I'm going to spend a little time explaining this to you. Perhaps I'll leave this to the last question, because it's going to take a little bit of time. I'll come back to this. You said the guardian told the pioneer to pray to God to send her receptive souls. Can you recommend a prayer you could use for that purpose, please? My dear, any prayer. I explained, I think, I must explain this maybe a second time, that prayer has 3 stages. Baha'u'llah says prayer is like a ladder. The first stage is to get your ladder out of the storeroom and positioning it. In other words, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, prepare yourself for prayer. I'm talking not about prayer in a group. I'm not talking about that. Prayer in a group is different, because the people are sitting and you can't just waste the time of everybody by waiting for 10 minutes to prepare yourself. I mean, it doesn't work that way. So group prayer is complete something different altogether. I'm talking about prayer at home, alone. You should prepare yourself, just like you take that ladder out of the storeroom position. Stage 2 is the revealed prayer, reading the revealed prayer. The ladder has steps. The prayer has sentences. All prayers have sentences. Every sentence is a step. Read the prayer. It doesn't matter which prayer. Choose a tablet of Ahmad, choose a prayer for difficult, the removal of difficulty, whatever you want. A revealed prayer, either by Baha'u'llah, by the Bab, or Abdullah. Focus yourself on each sentence. What is the Bab or Baha'u'llah or Abdul Bab? What is he saying here in this sentence? No, that quote is the murmur of syllables and sounds. It's useless. He does not want a murmur of syllables and sounds. It's not, neither that is a prayer, nor is it going to help my soul. At all. It's nothing but noises and sounds. All right. What is meant is using each sentence in order to uplift myself, to raise myself from my surroundings. I immerse myself in the meaning of each sentence. I'm getting away from this world. It becomes an exercise in detachment, a form of detachment. Think, oh, this is what he's saying. Next sentence, this is what he's saying. I forget everything else. I concentrate on this. These are the steps. It doesn't matter which prayer you choose. You are on top of the ladder. What happens? You immediately come down? It will be stupid. You put your ladder up for a purpose. You want to go there is a leakage, something, you want to double check it, or you want to go there to see the view or something. You have a purpose in mind. You have an objective in mind. That is your third stage. That is your prayer. That is where you tell Baha'u'llah, oh God, send me those receptive souls. I'm dying to see one of them. Send them to me, please. I beg you, I'm ready to mix with people. I'm trying my best every day to mix with people, to mention your name. Whenever I see the slightest interest, that's what's missing. That's what's missing. We go about our business, maybe we mention the faith, maybe we don't mention the faith. Maybe we are looking for somebody, we are not looking for somebody. That is where you talk to Allah. That is when you say, please send me. It's not in the prayer. That prayer is to scale the steps of the ladder. Stage 2. What happens to our Japanese friends who left the faith? Is it better to let them be and go and search for new seekers? That's a question you have to put to your National Spiritual Assembly or to your local spiritual assembly. Let them consult and guide you. I think it depends a great deal on the condition of each of these old Baha'is. Sometimes they may have said, leave me alone for God's sake after you investigate, so don't bother them. This would be impolite. When the person has said, don't contact me anymore. But if he has not said this, he falls in a different category. So you have to investigate these things. So there isn't a hard and fast rule, the rule of the thumb that you can apply. And if you need consultation, discuss it with the institutions. Now, this question about this is the lesser peace. This question, and this will be our discussion, the end of our discussion. You know, this question of the lesser peace has always been a subject of deep interest for the Baha'is. And they ask about it God knows how many times. There is hardly any conference that I have held, that I have attended, that I have not heard some question related to this question of the lesser peace. Another question they usually ask, but thank God you did not ask me, why aren't women on the universal? That's another regular question. Anyway, this question. This question is that from my reading of the writings, my understanding, I'm giving you a first understanding. The world has to suffer. The lesser peace is not just like that. Tomorrow morning is the lesser peace. No. It's going to be preceded by suffering. That's what I understand. We had the League of Nations after the First World War. We had the United Nations after the Second World War. The League of Nations collapsed. 20 years later, the Second World War came about. It's almost collapsing. I was reading the news this morning, and I said, the Syrian problem is still, the UN is unable to resolve it, just exactly as it was. Poor Kofi Annan came and cried as if he had not gone. It's exactly the same as it used to be. There are problems in Israel and Arab, they cannot solve. Problems between the Greeks and the Turks in Cyprus. Problems in Afghanistan, problems in Pakistan, between India and Pakistan. They cannot solve so many problems. Now, I told you I'm not a prophet, but I'm going to make a prophecy. The prophecy is this, that I think it's going to be another world war. I showed the page to my brother here. Citadel of Faith, page
58.
50 what?
58.
58. Open. Citadel of Faith, page 58. You see that after, it's dated 1948, 3 years after the end of the Second World War, Hiroshima. Shukri Effendi is writing, he says, he sees the signs of another world conflict he sees the wings of another conflict overshadowing the horizons of the world. You open the priceless pearl. I can't remember the name. I opened the page for you. I can't remember the name. The page. Look in the index. Under war, W-A-R. Show Ruhiya Khanum's priceless pearl. And you will find the reference. Ruhiya Khanum writes, one night, Shoghi Effendi said something very interesting. This is in her diary. She's quoting from her own diary. Very interesting. He said that if anyone says that there will not be another war, this is after the Second World War, it would be foolish. Foolish to say that there will not be another war. It doesn't stop there. And since there's going to be another war, a Third World War, it would be equally foolish to say that the atomic bomb will not be used. Nuclear war will not occur. Priceless pearl, look under index war, you'll find the evidence. It's impossible for the lesser peace to be accomplished with the present situation. No. There should be a clash. Alas, now if you go around and tell the Baha'i world that Ali said, I will not continue. Please don't say this. I said this at Gary's place, but I didn't give all the quotations or anything. There was a group of non-Baha'is sitting there. How could I quote the priceless pearl and citadel of faith? No. Generally I spoke. I give my personal opinion. You know, I don't know where we reached. Already the news had reached there. Ali has said there will be a Third World War.
Spring school.
Huh?
At the spring school.
At the spring school.
Sorry.
Now if you go around and say, when I go to the north, they'll say, Ali, did you say that? I will say, I did not say that. Such a thing is ahead of us. Shoghi Effendi wrote clearly, the immediate future of humanity is dark, very dark. The ultimate future, the distant future, however, is glorious, infinitely glorious. Read Promised Days Come. Look under the index, you'll get the quotation. The immediate